You know, the Learning Center celebrated its 40th anniversary last year. And one of the reasons that we've been a mainstay here at Berkeley in terms of student services, the main reason is because of the work that you as tutors do. I was a tutor. All the folks who are here, who are staff right now, were tutors too. And we were inspired to do what we're doing right now because a long time ago, you know, something clicked and our careers were established because of that. And today, we're going to be hearing a little bit of what clicked for a lot of the folks up here who are standing here. So that's the main goal. I just want to thank everyone for being here and for celebrating the work that the SLC does. It's work that, you know, it's interesting. A couple of years ago, the Daily Cal did a study of, you know, services on campus, and the Learning Center came out rated really well, but we were rated really well as the best kept secret on campus, right? And I thought that was kind of it was nice, but there was a problem to that, in that we shouldn't be a secret. All the students that want to use us, they should know about us. We need to get out there, right? And this is part of that effort. So with that, I'm going to invite our senior tutors to kick us off. And remember, hold the mic close to your mouth. So great.
So hi, everybody. Thank you so much all for being here today. And welcome to our Spring 2014 Writing Tutor Alumni Panel. So we have a really, really great event planned for you guys today. We have a really great group of panelists. So to give you an idea of what's going to happen, the senior tutor is going to introduce ourselves. We're going to introduce the panelists. We have 2 pre-prepared questions for the panelists, and then we'll open up to Q&A from the audience. So I'm Alina. I'm one of the senior writing tutors.
Hi, I'm Maya. I'm also one of the senior writing tutors.
Hi, and my name is Kevin. I'm also one of the senior writing tutors. And our last member, Cynthia, couldn't be here today, but she will join us in about an hour.
So this mic will do. So our first panelist that we have today is Shirley Duong. Ms. Duong worked at the SLC for 5 years before graduating in 2005, working in the individual tutoring format as a senior tutor, as well as doing work for the Summer Bridge program. And since graduation, she's earned her California Multiple Subject Credential through the Bay Area Teacher Training Institute and SFSU, and her MA in Developmental Psychology. Shirley has worked as a teaching assistant and a lead teacher for kindergarten through 2nd grade in multiple public and private schools throughout the Bay Area, and is currently in her 2nd year teaching kindergarten at Woodland School in Portola Valley. So welcome, Shirley. And our second panelist is Alex De Vera. Alex has worked for the SLC for 3 years before graduating in 2011 as a drop-in tutor, by appointment tutor, and individual tutor. And since graduating, she's worked as a marketing and publicity intern and project coordinator at City Lights Publishers, and an editorial and publicity assistant at Stonebridge Press, as well as a digital marketing coordinator and sales associate with Lonely Planet. And presently, Alex is still working with Lonely Planet, working in sales and HR.
All right. Next up is our third panelist, Kevin Wong. Yes, you guys heard me correct. Kevin Wong is introducing Kevin Wong today. It is always very confusing to have 2 people with the same first name, but in our case, it was also the same last name. And I remember the semester when Caroline sent out an email saying that Kevin Wong is holding a workshop for portfolios, and I was so nervous because I was this new tutor coming in. I thought I had to present, but yeah, thankfully she meant the more experienced Kevin Wong. Kevin was a tutor at the SLC for 6 semesters and rotated through programs such as individual, collaborative, senior, and summer bridge. Kevin graduated in 2012 and is now a compensation survey consultant. Our fourth panelist today is Beth Williams, one of the visiting lecturers at our college writing department. Even though Beth was only a tutor at the SLC for 4 semesters, her work and achievements are outstanding. She was part of the individual, by appointment, workshop, senior, and collaborative tutoring program. In addition, Beth held multiple jobs since her graduation in 2007. She started as an academic advisor for transfer students at UC Berkeley, then became an academic advisor at the Art Institute of California in San Francisco. She continued to develop her career as an English instructor at the Art Institute of California, became a visiting lecturer at our university, and simultaneously guides tutors at San Francisco State University's Learning Assistance Center. And now Alina will introduce our final panelist.
So our fifth panelist is Natasha Huey. And Natasha is a poet and 2013 graduate of UC Berkeley. During her time at the Student Learning Center, she worked as an individual writing tutor, other voices discussion leader, DSP tutor, and workshop leader. A current recipient of the Judith Lee Stronach Baccalaureate Prize, she is currently running the Right Home Project, a program that creates creative spaces for homeless youth in Berkeley. She is also a teaching artist for the Performing Arts Workshop and a Brave New Associate for Youth Speaks, a literary arts nonprofit in the country. Great.
Welcome, panelists.
So I think we'll start on this side, and if you would hold the mic closely, to your mouth so that we can record everything.
Okay. And in the interest of time for the first question, maybe take about 5 minutes. I'll signal you when it's getting close to your time. And then the second question is shorter, so about 1 to 2 minutes. So our first question is, how have you applied your experiences from the SLC, for instance, collaboration, training seminars, writing skills, peer approach, question asking, etc., into what you're doing now?
I'll start first. My name is Shirley, and based on my knowledge, experience, and understanding so far, I can confidently say that the value of collaboration at the SLC reflects the value at the schools I work in. So why is collaboration so important? I once read that your success when you're in school and in college is measured by what you can achieve by yourself. But once you start working, your success is measured by what you can achieve with others. And I believe that I learn faster, work more effectively, and have more fun when I collaborate with others. But more importantly, I can improve student learning and outcomes when I collaborate with my peers. And at the SLC and at the writing program, there are structures that facilitate collaboration, such as weekly training seminars, peer observations, and mentoring. And these same structures are in place at my current school. Like the training seminars that writing tutors attend, I attend weekly faculty meetings and a weekly planning meeting with my grade level partner. And like the peer observations I did when I was a writing tutor, my colleagues and I do peer observations and provide feedback to each other so that we all can improve our teaching. The process is nerve-wracking and fun, but it's very helpful. And at the SLC, senior tutors mentor new tutors. When I was a first-year teacher, I had a mentor teacher who I met with weekly, and the meetings were crucial. They were critical to my success during my first year of teaching. I don't officially have a mentor teacher right now, but I often go to my grade level partner for advice because she's been teaching kindergarten at the school for many years. And I also go to my head of school for mentoring on teacher leadership. I meet with him quarterly, and it's not required, but I'm in a position right now where I want to take on more teacher leadership responsibilities at my school. And secondly, I want to talk about my experience working with diverse communities at the writing program. So one of the great things about working at the SLC as a writing tutor is the diversity in terms of writing tutors and tutees. I myself was a first-generation college student, and I came from a low-income family. And when I was a writing tutor, Maria and Annette were the writing coordinators, and I was very influenced by them. And during the last semester, Alberto, that's when you started, and and I remember sitting in your interview. I sat in the interview when, so I always felt belonging and significance, and the work always felt meaningful and purposeful. And once I started working at the independent or private schools, I discovered that the faculty and student body were not as diverse, and it was a big shock to my system. So I've often wondered, why work in affluent communities when there are communities where I can be more effective? So luckily, I've had mentor teachers of color along the way who've also expressed similar thoughts and feelings about working in independent schools. And like them, I've wondered why I work in such affluent communities when I have a strong desire to work with students from low-income families and our first-generation college students. So I tell myself that I'm a pioneer, paving the way for other teachers of color and teachers for social justice in the independent schools. Somebody has to be the first. So a lot of schools and nonprofits are looking for people who know how to work with students from diverse backgrounds. And the writing program at the SLC is one model of how the work is done well. Of course, there's always more work to be done, but the training and mentoring I received at the writing program positioned me well to do the work I wanted to do when I graduated. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Shirley. Great. So, Alex, so how have you been able to apply your experiences from the SLC into the work that you're doing now?
I remember graduating, and you kind of come out kind of confused about what you really want to do. And I fortunately had an internship at City Lights, and that was a huge step. But learning to talk to older people in the industry in publishing is a huge deal. And I remember just coming away and knowing how to talk to them. And I think the Student Learning Center just really helped me talk about my ideas and help find my voice, but also help other interns find their voice. It's a competitive industry, and I go to workshops all the time, and I see people from UC Berkeley just trying to get their foot in the door. But a lot of the time, it's really helping them see like you are valuable. And I think the Student Learning Center just helped me try to pull that from people, just realize how much their voice matters. And even now, like, I'm working at Lonely Planet, and I'm helping not just in collaboration, but also in helping my colleagues who are much older than I am, and helping them learn, that they have something to say. They also have, they also know what they want to say, but sometimes they just dance around the subject. And recently I helped a colleague of mine with a pitch letter to one of our accounts, and we're trying to get, more people to be interested in our books. But she wasn't sure what to say, and as you read these letters, you can tell what they want to say, what they should say, but you don't want to tell them, say this. And that's, you pretty much at the Student Learning Center, you wanted to tell your student, do this, but you can't do that. So definitely just trying to really talk to your colleagues and try to say, why are you saying this? What are you trying to get them to do? What are you trying to have them, like, what do you want your audience to get from this letter? And, they know what they want to say, but they have to have the words to say it. You can't put words in their mouth. But I try to tell them, you want to say it eloquently. You want to say it in a way that won't become forceful or or scare them or never want to see you again, kind of thing. So it's a matter of, because they're nice people. Everyone's nice, and that's what I've learned in this industry. Everyone wants to help each other, and as long as you put your best foot forward, everyone kind of wins.
Great. Thanks, Alex. So, Kevin, then how have you applied your experiences from the SLC into what you're doing now?
So I guess I have the most off-the-wall job here. But I'll briefly, it's like one of those jobs where when people ask, what do you do? And I say, oh, I'm a compensation consultant. They're like, what? And so basically what I do is companies, not-for-profits, like the university, NGOs, government organizations, they come to our company to find out how much to pay their employees at all levels. Like, for example, potentially I could find out what Alberto makes if the University of California were a client, for the sake of fairness and for the sake of attracting talent. But so why I bring this up is because I guess you might be thinking, what could my time at the SLC have possibly done to sort of help me in this role now and the roles I've had previously. And one of the things that Shirley mentioned that really, I guess, hit home for me was when you're a student, it's all about what you can achieve individually, but at work, it's about how you can collaborate to achieve, some greater goal, like the success of the company or whatever. And so one of the big things that I've noticed in being in my career, and I guess you'll notice as you move into your careers too, is that a lot of people don't really know how to train other people and how to receive training from people. And one of the things that I very strongly took away from my time as a senior tutor, as a writing tutor, working for Summer Bridge, was how can I most effectively train somebody that I need to train, and how can I most effectively be somebody that somebody above me needs to train. And a lot of the very important ideologies of being a tutor I applied to those situations. And in comparison to, I've received training from horrible people, like not horrible people, but people who are horrible at training. And I think one of the strongest takeaways is that a lot of people feel like when they're training, it's about imparting knowledge. You just need to show them. And you're not really taking into account the person you're training, like, for example, their shortcomings, how they most effectively learn. And so one of the things I try to do when I'm training somebody is think about if I were in the situation and I weren't understanding it, how can I not just like show them, but like impart the knowledge effectively. And in a similar vein, when I'm being trained by somebody above me, how can I make it easy on them, and how can I demonstrate, when I'm not understanding, ask questions, work collaboratively with the person you're training or the person who is training you in order for you to understand, how can you make this person become effective as quickly as possible? Because really in the workplace, that's the #1 goal that everybody should have. How can you be effective? How can you be as effective as possible? Because that's how you show value to your supervisors, the CEO, whoever you're trying to impress. So I think that, and that's all it's about, right? But I think that the key takeaway is working collaboratively with others has been something that the SLC has definitely been very helpful after I graduated.
Great. Thanks, Kevin. And then Beth, how have you been able to apply your experiences from the SLC in your work now?
Hearing everybody's responses, I think it's really great, like how much diversity there is in what people have gone into after working at the Student Learning Center. And I've just been thinking as I'm listening to everyone, partially just I feel so thankful that in 2005 when I transferred to Berkeley, like the world conspired to have me apply for a job as a tutor there. Like that's one of the first things I did when I got on campus. And I remember, it's kind of difficult to be a transfer student, and the weekly seminars and just being in individual tutoring and then in collaborative model and senior tutoring, there was such a wonderful community that I formed that I didn't really form anywhere else on campus while I was there, and when I transferred in, I was a political science major and I graduated in political science. But the fact that everything that I did at the Student Learning Center completely has dictated all of my career ever since that time. I decided because I enjoyed working with college writing classes so much that I started asking the college writing instructors who I was paired with what kind of programs I should go into if I wanted to teach in college writing. And they talked about San Francisco State's Master's in Composition program. And so I went there and I also, and then now I'm teaching in college writing, which is really great. It's like that's exactly what I decided I had wanted to do once I started working at the Student Learning Center. And along the way, I also got to work in student support services. And a lot of this, I've done academic advising, and a lot of the commitment that I have to working with students and supporting students comes from values that I have that I kind of realized through working at the Student Learning Center. So the fact that I really was committed to working with students who were low income or first in their family to go to college, or international students, Generation 1.5, any sort of student that might not be the, might have not have as much of getting their voice heard. I wanted to like work with that student. And I realized that because of getting to work with some of those students at the Student Learning Center as a tutor. In my classes, I definitely use a collaborative, like student-centered, question-based approach, which is what I learned from the tutor training seminars and from tutoring. A lot of the ways that I teach writing to my students in my classes is based on how I learned to work with teaching writing when I was a tutor. And actually what I found when I went to SF State for my graduate program was that the training, it was it was kind of reinforcing a lot of what I had learned in my tutor training at the SLC, that they were really on the same page. And that was really nice to see, that the training at the Student Learning Center was the same kind of training that I was getting at the graduate level as well. And then also, in terms of the peer approach, I really did see the value of that. And so peer review is a huge part of how I structure my classes in college writing. And, debunking the negative feelings that students sometimes come into classes having about their past experiences that haven't been good with peer review, like working from there and seeing what can we do so that you feel like this is, peer work is going to be really helpful for you and that you're going to get a lot out of it. That's something that I definitely learned at the Student Learning Center. And then just finally, I think mentoring has been such an important part of, it was a really important part of working at the Student Learning Center. I remember my senior tutor, she and I are still in touch, and that was a really important relationship for me in terms of learning how to be the tutor I wanted to be and the educator I wanted to be. And I still, even in my job now, I work with more experienced instructors in college writing to ask them their take on situations and to collaborate with them and hear their input on things when I have questions or when I have any problems within my classes and I need to think of ways to handle them. So I just feel like kind of everything I do in my teaching has been informed by my experiences at the Student Learning Center.
That's great. Thanks, Beth. And now, Natasha, how have you applied your experiences from the SLC to what you're doing now?
Cool. Similarly, I think that everything that I do, you could draw a direct line. It's very, very relevant. First of all, shout out to Kevin, who is my senior tutor. So just cycles of mentorship within the room. And I can vouch for his abilities to train very well. So of course, thank you. And so my work, I'm a teaching artist, and I work with homeless youth through the Right Home Project and manage that whole project logistically as well. And then I'm a teaching artist through another organization out of San Francisco where I work with middle schoolers and have worked with kindergartners and fifth graders. And then a national programs associate for Youth Speaks, which is a literary arts nonprofit. And so when I mean direct line of everything, it's really everything. I mean, starting from pedagogy, and Youth Speaks explicitly uses a Freirean model. And so when I was entering that space, it was very natural, really was keyed into a lot of the philosophies and background knowledge of why they were doing what they were doing. And just knowing the word pedagogy, I feel like has gotten me past interview levels. It's very, very useful to understand frameworks that people use to do the work that they're doing, to not only answer these questions of what and how, but why. And I think that that's something that I'm always taking with myself, no matter what I do, and specifically some of the same philosophies and theories that we use at the SLC also use in a lot of the places that I work. And with other voices and with workshop leading and Summer Bridge and really everything at the SLC, also integrating socially just, multicultural material at all times and building that in and how to discuss those things and make connections. That's something that particularly with my teaching artist work is pushed really hard, and it's pushed so hard because it's something that I think a lot of the teaching artists in the program don't focus on, or it's something that doesn't happen automatically. And for me, I feel like with the material I was exposed to at the SLC, as well as the strategies for talking about what we talk about, I think that those things are more automatic. Like the materials that I reach for, the things that I want to show the youth first are the things that some folks that I'm working with won't think of until maybe edit 3 or, after having to really focus and, okay, I need this kind of socially just material. Let me go after it instead of it being like, of course, we're going to use something like this. I'm not talking about this person or this writing. And because I teach in classrooms, lesson planning and facilitation and time management are all directly relevant in some of the same ways. And in some less intense and some more intense ways with when I'm working with youth that I'm working with right now. So for instance, time management, I have 45 minutes in these classes with middle schoolers, and that usually ends up being 30 minutes because of, okay, sit down, get your folders, and trying to think of strategies for how to get that started in the first minute instead of the 5th minute. That's been something we've taken weeks to get to, and things that I've drawn on from the SLC, and how do you jump on those first moments in creative ways. And I think that helping others meet goals too, when you're working with a tutee or working with people in your classrooms and you're working to help them finish their essay or revise their essay or something. Similarly, I'm trying to get 7th and 8th graders who do not want to perform in front of other people. And so it reminds me of a lot of the gold sheets when you're in those first meetings and you're going over strengths and where they want to improve, and they're like, I have no strengths. And you have to go from there and push that conversation and really make sure that they don't leave without having written down a few things. I find myself doing that a lot because we've been writing this whole time about healing community. That's kind of been the overarching theme. And something I've been a little surprised by is how much kind of self-loathing there is, or how much like they buy into the bad things that are said about the school they go to, the place they live, and they only want to talk about the weaknesses. They only want to talk about what they can't do and what is bad about where they are, and which totally makes sense. But then you also have to make sure there's that balance there, push towards the other side too, and really illuminate the strengths that they all have and kind of push them a little farther, and help them negotiate those weaknesses, those things that are negative, and build them into more positives, and so that they're working together. Yeah, I think that those are the ones that stuck out to me most, but really we could go through the list and draw a little line. It's all been relevant for me. And I think just the models of professional development and mentorship are things that have carried over very smoothly. So I definitely praise the SLC with so much of what I've been able to do.
Great. Thanks, Natasha. So we can just go back in the opposite order maybe for this last question. And I was wondering if you could all briefly speak to what you miss or value most about the SLC.
I miss the people the most. I don't see Alberto as much as I want to, or Luisa, or a lot of the people that I work with that meant a lot to me and really have helped me and are always present in my mind, asking questions even when they aren't there. And what I value most is what I just mentioned, is the professional development. I think that when I have been interviewed or when I'm trying to find work or opportunities, folks don't really ask what I majored in. They don't really ask what grade I got in different classes. On paper, what I did in school, the most relevant things were things that I did, the places that I worked, and majority of that was the SLC and the different capacities with which I experienced the SLC, and the skills that I got from those experiences, these hard things that I can point to that let somebody believe that I can walk into a classroom, or I can go into a meeting, or build a curriculum, or work with others, whatever it is. They're more impressed and interested in the things that I've done at the Student Learning Center than they are in the class I took as a junior. So it's professional development I think I value one of the most.
All right. So I literally wrote down the same things that were just mentioned. So what I missed the most is the community. It was like my first time working when I was working at the Student Learning Center with so many like-minded people, and that was like so exciting. I think that was part of why there was such, a strong sense of community, was that we were all excited about this thing that we were doing, and we felt like we related on that level. And I've really liked a lot of my colleagues since then, but it's not been quite that experience. That was like a really special experience, maybe particular to the time, and place, but that's something that I do definitely miss. And then I also said having also so much support and constant training. I thought that was wonderful, and that it's, even if there is professional development opportunities in other positions that I've held since then, it's a really unique sort of setup at the Student Learning Center where you have this weekly kind of training, and you're checking in with various people, with mentors and with your coordinators and with each other. And that's something that I really valued. And then just one other thing I thought of is in teaching, I still get to engage with students, and I even get to engage with them one-on-one in office hours, for instance. But it's so nice to have that relationship that you build when you're just meeting alone for this long, for 50 minutes, for like this longer period of time with one student almost every week for 10 weeks or something, or even longer. That is like a really special relationship that you get to build with that person, and the rapport that you're able to develop. And that's something that I think is also really unique to the Student Learning Center kind of tutoring jobs.
I think one of the main things that I miss most about the SLC and about my time at Berkeley was just being at the best public university in the world and being surrounded by people who didn't know but wanted to know, like the culture of a public university, just people who wanted to learn and wanted to teach. And beyond that, I think specifically to the SLC and my time there, the main thing that I miss most is, what was it? Ooh, I forgot. It mustn't be that good. Let's see. Oh, right. Okay. It was the satisfaction that I got from working with students, working with staff, working with my colleagues, and the gratitude, the like genuine gratitude that I felt when a tutee was like mind blown, eye open, like, wow, how did you do that? And it's like just their amazement when they understand and I'm able to help them with that.
I think there are two things I really miss. One, the reading lists. I love getting, like, when students would come, they would always have different reading lists from English classes or R&C, and a lot of the time I don't care if they spoil the book for me. It was awesome, like to just know that this is the book I want to read next. So that's one, and I think I don't think they realized how awesome those books were. Like, I can name a couple that I picked up after. It's like The Picture of Dorian Gray. Another one that I really want to pick up is The Leopard, which I haven't done yet, but I see it all the time, and I'm thinking, hey, I remember that student would, bring that in and try to explain it to me, and it was just having that student talk to me about it was pretty awesome. It was just writing it down was hard. But I think another one that I miss is working with so many different students, and just kind of, I felt like I was developing a relationship with their writing styles. And I know a lot of the international students had such beautiful prose, and I think that there's no way I think any student who grew up in the U.S. would probably nail that. And it's such an awesome writing style, and I kind of wish I knew how to write that. but it was also trying to encourage them to keep that up, but also try to get their point across, because they would dance around it a lot. But yeah, I think those are two big things I miss.
I really value the work that the SLC does, and just like everybody said, I really miss the professional development and the training. I think that when I went through the writing program, I really took it for granted. I thought that these structures exist everywhere, but I have worked at schools where these structures are not in place, and it's really hard to feel successful in the work that I do. And I also really, when I think back to my experience at the SLC and I think back to my youth, I really appreciate the work we were doing. I was connecting with others, I was making a difference, and I was learning. So it's sort of all the things I wanted to do at the SLC in the writing program. It was all there. And so I think back fondly. And when I do think back to college, I think about my experience at the SLC first and foremost.
Great. Well, thanks, guys, so much for your thoughtful answers. Now Kevin's going to field questions from the audience.
All right, so now we'll transition to the open Q&A section of our panelist event today. So if you have any questions, please raise your hand and speak up loudly so we can record your question on the video, and then I think you can direct your question, or we can have it open-ended so that anyone who feels like it can answer the question. Are there any questions? Okay. Alberto.
I guess one question that I had was there anything that you saw that you think is missing from the SLC that you would like to see? Especially now given your experience out in the real world.
Anyone? Well, I can say that the timesheet is pretty old, and we should definitely update the timesheet. But okay, please.
Exactly. Modernized record-keeping system.
It's a hard question to answer. I think, and I've spent most of my time thinking of what I'm drawing on instead of thinking of what could be there. I think it's been cool at my work at the Performing Arts Workshop to see alternative models of creating lesson plans, or ways to teach the same thing. Yeah, so I think maybe, and I feel like the SLC already does this, but just experimenting with different orders, or here's how somebody else structures a lesson. How could we draw from that or use that, or maybe you like that better? But yeah, encourage folks to see that.
Right. Alex has maybe something to add.
I remember there was this one video we saw. It had to, I forget, it was this video where people were talking about their experiences coming to the US and learning how to write like, an American, very forceful. And is that it? I don't remember, but it stuck out. Like I remember it, and
We're still using it.
you continue using it. And I think I wish when I was there, I wish there was more lessons like that, because you have so many different students coming through the SLC, and having the tutors, sympathize with how hard it is to really to learn how to write. It seems in a different language, in a different style that their professors can still give them an A on. They want to know that, like, students want to know that they're what they have to say, how they say it is worth something. And so I think having more of those sessions, more workshops like that would be helpful.
All right. Do we have any other questions? Or
One of our seniors?
yes, please.
Okay, so I came in late, so I'm really sorry if you've already answered this, but I have question of mine is, what has your experiences been like working with different age groups, and how has the SLC kind of helped you approach maybe younger students or older students or things like that? Again, I'm sorry, you already touched on it. Okay.
Kevin, can you repeat that question?
Okay. So the question was, how does the SLC help you to basically approach students of different age groups? Since we're mostly dealing with incoming freshmen or sophomores, but I heard some of our panelists are working with kindergarten kids and then also middle school. So yeah.
I was just going to say that I feel like it's been very possible to apply the things that I did with freshmen or sophomores in college to a couple of, to the other age groups that I've worked with. So when I was an academic advisor, I worked with a lot of reentry students. So they're 25 years old or above. And that, I thought that was really, it was very interesting and sometimes challenging to be considerably younger than the person who you were trying to advise. And I thought that going back to the trying to build up a good rapport and gain trust, and also show what it is that show what it is that you have to offer this person, were things that I drew on from my SLC days. And also then I've done some substitute teaching at middle school, and it seemed very applicable. I think that the things that we were doing at the Student Learning Center, I think in middle school it seemed like I felt more like there was more behavioral management that I was doing, and that I hadn't had to practice that so much at Berkeley, because so many of the students are so self-motivated and really, they're just really motivated. And this can not be just linked to age group, but just, different kind of students and different kind of culture. But even like in the readings that I would do in my classes for my master's program, a lot of the studies are about like middle schoolers or high schoolers. And then they were talking about how do you apply this to working with college students. And so I think that they're, it seems like in all different programs, they seem to be trying to use similar approaches and just modify them for, somewhat for working with different age groups.
I teach kindergarten, and I've taught first and second grade, and some of the things apply, right? Because it's teaching. Like I remember when we read Freire and bell hooks, that still applies. But when working with young children, there are changes I have to make. Young children have to move often, and they like it when you sing to them, and they learn. There was one summer, I remember the last summer I taught Summer Bridge, I also attended a writer's workshop training for elementary school teachers. And they would bring in, at the conference, authors came to visit and speak, and they talked about how they would record everything. They would observe their world, and when they saw something interesting, they would record it in their notebook, and perhaps they could use it later on in their stories. And I remember learning at that training that young children don't revise. And that was a big deal to me, because at the Student Learning Center we're trained that you're never finished with your piece, and you revise, but young children don't revise. So there's some similarities and differences.
Thanks. I'll answer everything if you let me, so sorry. That's a good point, though, about young children not revising. But it's interesting because I've come up against the same thing, and I work in a place that also very much emphasizes reflection and revision as a very important part of art, and making sure that the students get something substantial from the experience instead of just a free write or your first try. And so it's been interesting because for me, I actually do think that young kids can revise. And it's been, kindergarten is, as younger you go, the harder it is. But I think that asking follow-up questions, asking questions is a way that I have not naturally developed, but has become almost natural because of my training at the SLC, that where most folks that I've observed in the classroom might get an answer from a young kid and just be like, great, even if it's not really, or it's very vague or something. That I found that a good way of challenging them is just asking little follow-up questions, and it's a way that it shows that I think shows that I believe that they have the answer. I'm not asking to embarrass them. I'm not asking them to show that they weren't paying attention. I'm asking them because they've said something interesting and I want to know more. And that they give me a more specific thing. And it's also interesting because as young as kindergarten, kids will do things that surprise me a lot. So they're just less inundated with cliche in some ways, that they don't even really recognize what they're doing as out of the box because they don't really know the box as well yet. So whereas with fifth, you get into high school, which is high school and college is my most experience. And, you kind of have to work at getting folks to get to more surprising and original and unexpected ideas. And it's really funny to see choices that kindergartners and first graders will make where I'm like, oh, that was an interesting word or a movement or something. And that can be really interesting. But just that was on the thought of revision. The other thing I'll say about working with different age groups, because my first experience working with different age groups was after college, after the SLC, is what concretely I learned that helps a lot is being prepared for your lesson and being prepared to throw it all away or adapt and use parts of it, know what is appropriate. And what makes you do that in a good way is having this tool belt, having all these backups, these ideas that you can go from. So with middle schoolers, I have to do that a lot. But with kindergartners, I walked in on the first day and immediately knew nothing from my lesson plan was going to work because the energy was so high. They were running around and the teacher was like, I cannot get them to sit down today. So, and I was like, okay, great. So let's do a performance activity. And it was something that I was able to pull from, but I knew it would fit because of different plans that I've done with it before. And having that flexibility in the moment, learned from the SLC, and the preparation that flexibility requires, I learned from the SLC, as well as time management. So, and the last thing is structure, and that being a freeing thing for some age groups instead of a limiting thing. Whereas like in college, it works a lot better for me to say, okay, the first words are I remember, and then just go for 10 minutes, right? With the 7th graders I'm working with, they're just like, what do I do? I don't know. And there's this, no matter how much you say there's not a wrong answer, it feels like there's a wrong answer. And there's some things when you're being creative that just are very difficult for an age group that is going through a lot of like an insecure period, a changing period. Like, they're very concerned what their peers have to think and are not, may not have done poetry before. And so it's been a learning experience for me to say that, oh, actually, when I say we're doing a metaphor and you can choose these 3 options, that lets them be more creative because they can just pick one and then we can brainstorm together about how to do it, and then they go in all different directions with some sort of object that they can follow instead of being set up with an open-ended question that they might not feel secure enough to answer in the 5 minutes that they have to answer it or something. So hopefully that was helpful.
All right, thank you very much. Do we have, what is the time, right?
We are at 6:33.
So do we have any other questions, I guess, before we give everyone a chance to meet our panelists and then maybe network a little bit? Yes.
Hi everyone. Thank you for your words of wisdom. I'm going to call on more words of wisdom though. This is a time where a lot of the students I'm working with now are in a lot of angst around what's the next step. What do I do after college? So I want to hear from the panelists. Where were you at that moment when you were at that next step, and how did you get through?
Okay, I can start off. Well, I really felt like because I was a transfer student, I had this goal that I wanted to be, I wanted to only be at community college for 2 years. And then, I wanted to finish college in 4 years despite doing community college and then Berkeley. And so I kind of had an inkling that political science was not right for me at community college, but I felt like I can't change my major because this will throw off my whole plan of transferring. And then, so I finished this degree, and really I did much better in all the classes that were not for my major than, I just really wasn't as interested in it, but I felt like I couldn't really change my major. And I think that the way that I dealt with not knowing what to do next was immediately going into graduate school. I just decided to, that I was immediately going to try to not take a break and just continue being a student, which is what I felt comfortable doing. I had done it for, 15 years or something. So, although I feel really happy with the experience I had in graduate school and the degree that I have, I do feel like, I really see now why people say it's good to take a break before graduate school. I think, I'm not quite sure what I would have exactly gone into or if it would have even been different, but I feel like I would have been in a different place mentally to take more of it in a different way. And so I just feel like because I was kind of anxious about what to do next, I just continued doing sort of what I knew how to do. And I think that that's something that I really admire people who say, I'm going to take time off before graduate school. I think that can be really scary and also can be a really great idea.
So like Beth, I also didn't know what I wanted to do. And so I actually applied for and enrolled in the master's composition program at SF State also. And because I had such a good experience tutoring writing, I said, okay, let's continue this. And I think I did a semester and a half, and then I realized this is not what I want to do. And I have a mentor through a different organization called Summer Search, and they were like, and my mentor said to me, don't go work at Starbucks, come intern for us. So I was really lucky, and I interned there. And around the same time, at the same time, I was thinking, I got to support my family. Now that I've graduated college, there's an expectation that I help out with the family. And about the same time when I was figuring out what I wanted to do, I learned about this program called the Bay Area Teacher Training Institute, where I could work full-time as a teaching assistant and go to school to get my teaching credential. So it was like a perfect mix where I could still stay in school and work, and still have to work hard. I mean, the expectation where you're working full-time and you're going to school in the evenings and one Saturday a month. So it had the rigor that I wanted to. And so then I did that. And things have worked out since then, since I discovered that program. But I also did the default, I'm going to stay in school. And if I could do it again, I realized how helpful it is to get some work experience before going into school, because then I would bring new understanding to my graduate studies. And I think information sticks. It just sticks so much more once you get work experience.
So I guess my moment of angst occurred very shortly after graduating, because I had a job when I graduated, but I hated it. So I quit that job, and I was unemployed for 4 months of my own will. And I guess what I learned was that it was okay to fail, and that there are things in my life I can't control. Because this was also a time when I quit that job that I was going through some personal problems. And so I pretty much spent those 4 months learning to accept that, but also understanding that there are things in my life I can't control. And so I basically took that time to apply my strengths, compensation numbers, to something I was good at and something that I would enjoy. And so I guess I'm back. Not at the same company, but for a competitor.
I was just going to say something really quickly, something that that I think is important to know. I feel like I wish I had known this maybe more, that not all of the jobs that I've had since graduating have been like resume builder jobs and have been my career kind of jobs. I've also decided, not been applying for jobs like that. And while that's happening, worked in various clothing stores or, and something that's for me, that's not what I want to do long term, but I needed a job. And so I think that that's also important to know, that like you don't really have to have every move that you make be perfect for, your career at that time. Like you can just be doing what you need to do in that moment and be looking long term for something, something for the future.
Definitely. I totally agree. And I was totally doing everything in my power to not do that when I graduated. And it was really hard. And I think that the first and only word that comes to my mind is hustle. But I think that especially when I was interested in going into the arts and or nonprofit work, there's this anxiety of the starving artist idea, or these models that I did not want to buy into about what the life that I was trying to make for myself. And so I think I just looked at a lot of different things and tried a lot of different things and went for things that I was arguably unqualified to do, and was not hired to do some of those things and was hired to do others. And I think that in those times that I really wasn't getting hired and I was finding a lot of resumes, or not resumes, job postings or things that I would like to do but just felt so unqualified for, I really started to doubt myself a lot and what I had done and the merit of what I had done, and if I don't know, I was be able to do anything. And in that few month period, I really just like identity crisis mode of what is my life? What am I doing? What does this mean? And so I think it's one of the things that's really important is I think to surround yourself with people that love you or people that know good things about you and can tell you those good things in that moment. Because it just helps, because I think that all of us will know at all times in our rational minds the good things about us and the things that we can do. But in those moments where you're, facing rejection over and over, it can really help to have somebody be like, you have this and this is going to work out. You'll be fine. Why don't you look over here and work on that? And that can really help to direct that energy. And I think that something I've been hearing on the panel as well is that you can't control everything. And that is, of course, absolutely true. And I think that it's funny because getting to the place I am totally required a lot of luck, but I think that I also made some of my own luck in a way. So what I mean by that is I think it's very important for, if you do know generally what you're interested in or what you like or what you want to do, just put yourself in as many of those places as possible. So for me, if I'm doing arts and education work, it was going where artists and educators were, or, being at these events, talking to folks, and I wasn't exchanging business cards or really going to any schwanky, experiences where I imagine networking happens in my imagination. But it was this kind of, you talk to folks and you friend them on Facebook, and then they're like, oh yeah, you like elephants, right? Do you want to do this event? And I'm like, sure. Let me end up there. And then when I'm there and I'm performing, somebody sees me perform and they're like, oh yeah, cool. So I just applied for Writers Corps or whatever. Or I was, where I was when I heard about Writers Corps? Other Voices, Student Learning Center, okay? That's not even where I'm working right now, but that's where I found out about that potential job opportunity and really worked hard to get it and made it to the final round and did not get the job. And was very sad about that. But then thank you, Alberto. See, surround yourself with people who know the good things about you. And Alberto helped me a lot during that whole process. So having those mentors around you as well to be like, is this a compelling resume? Or if I'm going into this situation where I know most folks have gone to graduate school, is there a way I can leverage my experience better? That kind of thing. So kind of surrounding yourself by those people and putting yourself in all these different places in a way makes some of your own luck, but then you always do require some luck and being in an okay place in your life and all of that stuff. And if you haven't heard about Idealist before, That's an interesting website, idealist.org. And it's just a listing for folks who are interested in kind of like social justice work or nonprofit work, or kind of a lot of the jobs that I feel like some folks have on this panel would be posted there. So that's kind of learning those things. I went to the Career Center for all kinds of things I didn't need to, but it felt good to do things and feel like I was trying. And if that takes a long time, then you also have to get other work. You have to find other ways to pay your electric bill and stuff. But if you can fill your time with that kind of rigorous hustle and it gets you somewhere in the end, then you accidentally end up with 3 jobs like me.
Okay, so after college, I really wanted to stay in the Bay Area, but it's so expensive. So what was my plan? I think what's important is not to compare yourself to other people. I had a time when I stayed off Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, any social media because, people like to post their successes there. Yeah, their achievements, and that's great, but it makes you feel like crap. So it's just a matter of I think learning to appreciate what you can do, and also just coming to terms with what you want to do. I think when I came out of school, I am currently with someone who makes more money than I do, and that can warp your psyche. You feel kind of down a lot, and I think that's how I felt like coming out of school, because he already had a better job, it seemed. But when you find something you love, like I love publishing, I love books, but you also realize there's not a lot of money in it. And I think what I came to terms with is that I love it more than I'd rather be paid for it, And that's something you have to come to terms with. And, I know a lot of people, and they work at places where it pays really well, but it's not what they want to do. And if you find something you love, find a way to make money from it. And just be nice to everyone. Because, there's this great quote I saw on Pinterest that said, be kind to everyone because everyone's fighting a hard battle, and just learn from that. Yeah.
All right, I think with that, we'll conclude our alumni panelist event today. Thank you for coming, and thank you all for attending the event. If you have any questions, feel free to network with our panelists, and if you have questions for Alberto or us senior tutors, feel free to come talk to us too. Cookies and yeah.